We don't have to like go and stand next to
Two,
him.
one. Oh, you guys are.
Okay, wow. So we're doing Facebook Live. We're
It's
so
amazing.
modern,
I
are
know.
we? I
We're
know.
cool.
So I see that
We're
there are
cool.
a few different languages that I'm supposed to attempt to
you're-
say hello to. Okay, so hola, ciao, salut, and ni hao.
Very good.
Yeah, I
Very
don't
good.
know
I
if I
like
did
the
it well.
Chinese. You did the Chinese
know.
very
Well,
good there.
Chinese-
The Italian,
I do
which
have
I
a-
can kind of speak. It was right in
It was
there. I
good.
was ready to
ciao,
jump right in.
Ciao, Bella. Right? You got to
Yeah,
do a
ciao,
little.
Bella.
Yeah.
We'll be
And-
calling for wine soon. You know.
Exactly, and cheese. They have when my grandmother's Chinese, and so she was teaching me about the inflection in the Chinese. I don't know if I did it right, but I know there's inflection that matters.
Yeah, but you inflected.
I know.
Which is really
so at least for
important.
people who don't know Chinese, it looked good, right?
I thought it was great.
Okay, so let me introduce my friend here, Jim DeFelice, who is extraordinary, fabulous, and who I get a little emotional sometimes when I talk about the impact that he's had on Chris's in my life. You're a perfect example of the ripple effect because Peter Hubbard at HarperCollins William Morrow found Jim and they found Chris to write his
And
story.
and all these good things. I want everyone to know that this means I have to pay for dinner. So
Of course,
it's
of
not
course.
coming free.
It's expected.
But I have a little
about it.
shout out for you
Okay.
today. If you notice, of course, I don't ever wear a tie. But
I mean, Chris Kyle Frog
get that?
Foundation.
Come on.
Under your blazer, no less. You're so
under a
covert.
blazer, I wore a
High
blazer.
fives.
Hey, yeah, there we go.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for the support on that too. So truly, Jim, before I know you're going to be asking the
I'm
questions.
asking you though.
You are, but I'm telling you
Okay,
something as
all
if
right.
you don't know me, right?
All
This
right.
is how this goes. From the bottom of my heart, you know that American Sniper would not have been what it was without you. And you know, coming from New York and being an accomplished author in all different areas, were able to get in this Texan's mind. And I know you were pouring cups of coffee, hearing y'all and fixin', and like truly heard Chris's voice.
It was great. I mean, I think we bonded not just over coffee, but maybe over some bourbon and beer and some other
course,
stuff.
of
But
course.
Chris is a really easy guy to get to know and really like. And for whatever reason, we communicated. But I was just thinking when we were walking here, the first time I met you. And one thing, I don't know if you know how much of this story you may know or not know or
tell me.
remember, but one of the reasons I wanted to do the book, and Chris and I discussed the very first time we talked, was I wanted people to understand what the families at home go through. And, it's, seals, and everybody said, oh, seals are cool. And, Chris has such an incredible story, I mean, obviously a hero. But at the same time, his family, and you specifically, were also being heroes, in your own way, and having to make all these sacrifices. And it was kind of an idea that really hadn't been done in books, and I still had to sell it to the publisher, actually.
Yeah.
But as soon as I said to Chris was like, yeah, absolutely. But who the hardest sell was Taya, because with the first week that we were actually working together on the book. I think we'd actually started, but Chris and I were at a ranch owned by a good friend of his, and you were supposed to come over for dinner, and all of a sudden we're waiting, and Chris gets a phone call, and what are you saying?
Yeah, okay, so I had a lot to learn as a wife. I have a lot to learn hopefully through my whole life, but I didn't think that I belonged in the book, right? I mean, I thought it was his story, and I had this tendency, as I think we look at warriors and we think they're so tough, they're so capable of all these things, that there's a part of me that didn't recognize the beauty and the soul of a man, and I only really learned it through Chris and my son, that there is a softness and a part that needs to be nurtured. And part of him emotionally going through these books, this is not something he wanted to do, and he needed a little emotional support, I think, and he certainly got that from his friendship with you. But yeah, he recognized the family impact, and I think it became important to him and you to have me be a part of the process. And I don't think I recognized at the time the importance of it, but it's like this divine leading and unfolding, because it turns out a lot of people needed that healing to know they weren't alone.
Absolutely. I think, I think a lot of men, we get, we don't talk about it, but we get a lot of strength and power from from the women in our lives, especially our marriages and our girlfriends and those sort of things, but also our sisters, our mothers, that sort of thing. And the interesting thing to me is that that's a thread that has stayed it starts in Sniper, it goes through American Wife, and and some real tragedy, and then it kind of blossoms in your life, and then also in the book. And I think maybe if you tell people a little bit why we've been working on this a long time, but why you thought this was important.
There's so many things that I've seen as we've gone on this journey together, and it did start with American Sniper. It's this ripple effect that starts somewhere with this leap of faith, and it starts one person at a time without knowing what the outcome is, right? And you were working on West Like Lightning about the Pony Express, and I think we just got to talking as I was traveling the country doing speaking engagements, and you're traveling the country doing much of the same, and also writing this book.
Getting lost working on
yeah, I'm always lost anyway. I have no excuse.
Yeah, that was a similar experience.
Yeah, we're like up in the stratosphere together sometimes. But it really comes down to this pioneering spirit of people wanting something better, and they know in their soul that there's something more, and they are willing to risk and sacrifice and go against great odds in order to do that. But it's always with an uncertain outcome, right? Like, we never know.
Absolutely.
I mean, American Sniper was a leap of faith. Chris didn't want to do it at first. I didn't want to do it at first. And then we come out and we realize, oh my gosh, this was worth the pain of going through it all again to write it, because it's beautiful for other people who needed to know they weren't alone. And American Wife, I wasn't ready to do it at the time. And I remember you saying so kindly, like, you can just talk to me. And I watched Chris go through his hard times and just talk to you. And then, I did some of those, and a lot of laughs, right? I mean, I think we've all been able to laugh through the pain always, which is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, working on that was so emotional. I mean, I've never cried working on a book before, but I mean, you can't go through that experience with someone and not. And yet, it was incredible to me, your journey, which we talk about in life, and it goes through, and then it blossoms into the foundation.
Right.
And let's give a little shout out to the Chris Kyle Frog Foundation, which we do talk a little bit about in the book. Mm-hmm. Tell why it's important.
Yeah, there's such a power in, like you said, a strong marriage, and it's biblical too. Not everybody has the same faith, which is totally cool. But mine is Christian, and the Bible says God first, marriage second, kids third, and I realized the beauty of that in my marriage with Chris. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that when I got married, but I learned it because when the marriage is strong, the kids do better, and for generations that ripples out as well. One of the reasons that I'm passionate about marriages is because my parents and their friends stayed married,
right.
Not just to stay married, but they made it good marriages.
Well, they have having met your parents, I mean, they have a really powerful marriage,
and
romantic, your dad, and your dad's such a great guy, and with your mom, they work together so well. It's amazing,
and they're strong personalities.
Yeah. Oh
right?
yeah,
but
well
they
yeah,
it out.
Oh yeah,
and that's what service marriages are, right? Mm-hmm. They're strong personalities. If you're a service person, you don't get married to somebody that isn't strong, because it's never going to work. But the dynamic then becomes two very strong people in one house trying to make it work against all odds, because now you've got fear of survival in play, and you've got the shift changes, the training, the infidelity opportunities on both sides. You've got the family dynamic is changing. You can never count on a schedule. The culture and what they're saying about your spouse's job, the fact that the spouses at home are not recognized at all. They're never wearing a uniform, so who knows them? And
yet they're making incredible sacrifices.
Right, and they're not living out necessarily their dreams, because they've chosen to be the support role, and they develop a new dream, right? Which is a support role and a quiet, humble nature to do what they need to do. Sometimes they're working too, but it's different, because now you're holding down the fort, and you have to be on 24/7.
And one of the things I think that we were trying to do in American Spirit, and we talked quite a bit about this, was that we hope to show that the contributions that people make to their communities are oftentimes, to them anyway, just simple things.
Right.
I mean, you're always talking about, just show up. That's a big part of the battle.
Right.
Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, because I think the interesting thing with the Chris Kyle Frog Foundation was developed on one or two people along the way when Chris and I were married who gave us a nugget here and a nugget there, right? And all of a sudden what you realize is the ripple effect, we don't know it at the time, but their purpose and our pain, it all comes together into like rippling out to a lot of people. And the beauty of American Spirit is we found that same thing would happen to anybody who either had pain themselves and found a purpose with it, or somebody who saw pain in another person and recognized it and said, I can do something. I don't have to change the world. I can do something for that one person. And then when they help that one person, it does change the world. You just, you don't have to take on the whole world's problems, but, you know, we've got children in here, obviously. We've got...
Who's your... now, we have really famous people.
Yes.
And we have people that, you know, frankly could be, and probably are, you know, people's next door neighbor or dad or whatever. Do you have a favorite? I mean, let me put you on totally on the spot here, because that's my job.
Yes,
I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay, do you have a favorite?
I'm going to try to keep it really short and sweet, but I have so many favorites. Okay, but I'm going to keep it short and sweet, but I'm just saying, like, Horses and Heroes, Micah Fink, I love that he says the easy way will kill you. Right. And you have to really stop and think about that, because a lot of times we think we want life to be easier, but it will kill you. The stronger one is what, you know, the more painful sometimes is the one that helps you. But Jesse Saperstein, Asperger's. That's another good one. Well, first let's talk. Micah he actually was a SEAL, although that's not why we chose to put him. And we didn't really. I don't think you knew anyway. I don't think you knew anyway. Yeah. But he has a program working with veterans who, you know, with PTSD or you know, I'm not exactly sure what diagnosis each person has, but the whole idea is not to take it easy, not to kind of, you know, sit on your couch or say, oh, woe is me. And he's definitely, you know, get out there. Jesse Saperstein, who has Asperger's, you know, he wasn't a veteran or he wasn't in the military, but he has the same attitude, you know, and the kids, I mean, some of my favorite stories, and I'm not going to get myself in trouble by saying, okay, this one, but you know, I guess I'm kind of partial to what some of the kids do, and I'd love to see what they're going to do, whether it's the girls who give socks to the nursing home, or you know, the Brandon Gosson who had a head injury right before he was going to college and kind of rehab that, and then, you know, went to help people in Haiti of all places and just did an incredible job. I'm wondering what sort of contributions these people are going to... And will we ever know? Like, we'll never know the impact, really, right? Like, Solutions for Change is in San Diego. They're not just helping homeless. They're changing people's lives, and they're bringing them in for 2 years at a time and really retraining them in everything in life. They're taking an entire, like, family line. Like, I picture the family tree, and the whole tree is different because they chose to help one person in a way that wasn't just giving them a meal, which is important, too, but they're giving them a new life, which changes every generation
and there's
after.
a bit of a hard-ass attitude, if I can excuse my language. You know, in that you know, we're not giving you, and this is something Chris used to say a lot. You know, we're not giving you a handout, and most people don't actually. They want a hand up, not a handout.
That's what. Yeah, you think you know. Sometimes people think they want a handout, but you know, Jim, what I've learned in this, and what I hope that other people will take too, is I used to look at it like pain is so horrible. How can I help people avoid pain, right? And now I look at it as when I see someone in pain, where is the opportunity for me to help them grow through it, right? You remember we were laughing about, I coached a girls' soccer team after Chris died, right? And my whole mentality was like, you girls better get tough, because the best gift I can give you is to make you tough.
Yeah, but these girls are like 5 and 6
They're
years old.
They're never too young. They're never too young.
My approach as a soccer coach is a little different.
A little different. Right, but you know, parenting, like, you know, God bless my kids, right? But you know, I look at it and I think, you know, if you look at these stories and you see the beauty and the ripple, then you say, okay, if the world is hard, it's okay. It's okay. We just have to look at it and say, okay, how do we show up for somebody else? And how do we help make it better? And the blessing in that is that when we help each other, we're blessed. Every single person in here that's helping someone else, right?
And
they're
you
blessed.
know, and in odd ways, and we were talking about, well, maybe we should set it up as a surprise, as a grandmother who did something that ends up. Why don't you tell that story?
Well, I mean, I love it because, you know, the thing is, I think as a stay-at-home mom, there were times where I thought, and I know lots of stay-at-home moms too, who are thinking, what is my purpose? You know, I know I'm raising my kids. I know that's great, but what's the next thing, right? Number one, if you're impacting children and you're doing a good job building their foundation, you can't quantify how many lives that will touch, right? Because when they go in the world, they touch one, that person touches five, that person touches five, right? And it goes out. So that in itself is important. But what if you are the grandmother who says, I stayed at home, I raised my kids, maybe that's all I did, right? And she's in Compton, and she's making sandwiches for people who are trying to find work crossing the railroad tracks, and her grandson is watching. And then years later, he has an opportunity where he sees people struggling and needing food and shelter, and he thinks of Nana, and he donates an entire building to the Catholic Charities.
You have millions and millions of dollars
Yeah, I
for
mean,
the building.
that's where I just say I think you have to have faith that if you're doing what's right and you're making one good move, you have to have faith that it does matter and it does ripple whether you get to see it or not.
And the other lesson there is that, sometimes we think we know who a person is from their media appearance and this person is a real hard ass, especially in this case, because he does have a real hard ass reputation. And who is it actually?
Jesse James, West Coast Chopper, shout out Guns,
actually
Knives.
has helped more people than you know.
Yeah.
And there's that side of
also, he privately gives people a place to stay on his property, and he doesn't like to talk about that. But I'm just saying, like, it's
now he's going to really be mad at us because they'll all be knocking on his door tomorrow.
I hear you got a place to stay.
But,
should we?
Yeah, I was going to say, now we've gotten some questions here. Let's start with Tracy from Rochester, New York, is saying, obviously faith drives you daily. Do you have any other outlets that feed your soul?
The one that feeds my soul, really, the faith feeds my soul. Time with my kids, like where we turn off the phones and everything else, that feeds my soul. And I'm learning, Jim, that quiet time, like truly quiet time, feeds my soul. Who knew, right?
Well, when do you have quiet time? I mean,
it's rare,
is it
but
like
I have it.
I think you sleep 2 hours a night? I mean,
I'm doing
seriously.
better on that.
Oh, we're up to
Better on
3 now. Oh, very good. Not that I'm one to talk, but
but sometimes you can drive with the music off and no phone going and just have a moment, right?
Not the sleep. I don't like the segue. The sleeping and driving together there.
True,
Those separate those.
Sometimes I feel like
Okay, so should we go to Adriana from Virginia Beach, Virginia? Great place. What helped you the most to keep your? This is a tough question.
Okay.
What helped you the most to keep your marriage strong while your husband was gone constantly, in between work, children, busy schedule? Boy, that's a tough.
Yeah.
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
How did
and
you?
she's in the sisterhood. She's saying,
She's in
right?
the
So
sisterhood.
thank you for your service and your family's service. I think that part of what I learned is that it's a lot of different things. It wasn't just one. And we have the Chris Kyle Frog Foundation because we know that there are some simple tools and tricks that help for this segment of the population that are different than the civilian population. I had a friend tell me when you want a date the least is the time you need it the most. And we know at the Frog Foundation, too, that it's not so easy just to get a date when you're at a new base or you have a night shift or travel and stuff. But I think getting some time and realizing that you have to pack a lot of quality into a small quantity is really helpful.
And you're saying that, and the emphasis really, I think, is in time and sharing. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be going out to the fanciest
You don't.
restaurant, although those are nice. But
I have a friend who every Friday night, now this is different for deployed people, but their kid is in bed and instead of getting a babysitter, they turn on club music and they have a martini together because that reminds them of the days when they were a little bit younger and wild. But I will say this on that one about how do you do it, how do you keep it strong? The one thing I wish I had known earlier, and I don't know if this will help or not because it's a longer conversation, but there is something I had to really embrace. Men at their core need respect. I have never in my life met a man that's not integral to who he is because they are men, right? Not because of anything else, not because they're jerks, whatever. And I had to recognize that a badass woman, which most service people marry sort of a badass woman, right, to stay at home, she is a kingmaker. And that means a man has to fight for respect everywhere in the world. And if he can come home to one safe place and know that the respect is there, he'll slay dragons for that. He's gonna, this badass woman is giving me the respect, I'll kill for her kind of thing. And the woman needs to be cherished. And what you'll find is that the woman is going to be the one to start that process of giving a lot of respect, and then she'll get cherished in return. It's a recipe that just works. I've had the most difficult couples that I've worked with, and when they really understand that concept, it changes, everything. But I think it takes a lot for a type A personality or a strong woman to say, well, am I trusting that he knows better than I do? No, you're not.
Well, that's not
simply
really
loving
what you're
them to
talking.
give
Yeah,
respect.
I think respecting people is not necessarily saying, "Oh, you're always right."
They're not.
Respecting, someone is treating them with respect,
Right.
and and cherishing.
It's a little
Cherishing
different,
someone's
but
a
it
little
feels like
different.
respect.
Yeah.
But it is
Cherishing's
different.
That's a little, and for some guys, admittedly, it's difficult to work on that side of yourself, especially, there's certain occupations and certain slots that when you go to war, when you're, in law enforcement and in other first responders, you have to think and act a certain way, because if you don't do that, there's bad consequences.
Yep.
And to get from that distance to where you need to be cherishing someone, that's a pretty far distance.
Yeah.
And I'm not making excuses, but it can be a struggle for some of us.
It can, and it's
sometimes.
a lengthy conversation, Adriana, that I'd love to have with you sometime, and apply online if you want to for the foundation too, because we'd love to get involved if you want us there.
Did you want to give a shout out for the foundation, the either the Facebook page or the
ChrisKyleFrogFoundation.org.
Right.
Yep. And then we're on, Instagram and Facebook too.
Since we're giving, but we're giving shout outs, so we should be shouting out the book.
We should. American Spirit. American Spirit is all over all of those sites, I think.
Yeah, we
right?
also have to sign these.
We do have to sign those. I do want to take this one though.
Yes, go
because
ahead.
I think it says from Cynthia in Mount Auckham, I think I'm pronouncing that right, California.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think people, and women in particular, can build courage and resilience?
That's a good question.
And you, Jim, I want to answer this first because that's, I think, what American Spirit is all about. And you spent so much time with these people, seeing how they built courage and resilience. So what do you think?
I think it's. I think in each case, obviously, everybody had a different situation. Whether it's Micah or Jesse or any of the people we've talked about. Ivan Castro, who's a blind Green Beret, who after he was blinded has run 50 marathons and gone to the South Pole and done all these incredible things.
And the Collins family, who has kids with a rare genetic defects, Lorraine Ash. I mean, we got so many stories in here.
Oh, absolutely. Awesome. The one thing, and they all have different approaches, they all have different challenges, all different things that they're dealing with, and hopefully some of those will inspire somebody as they read the book. But each one of them had two things that I took away. One is they had an overall plan of where they wanted to go eventually. Now, it may have been realistic or not. Biking across the country while you're blind is not necessarily a realistic goal the first day.
Right.
The other thing they did is that they took their approach to that goal day by day, step by step. So Ivan, for instance, didn't bike across America the second day after he recovered from his wounds, but he worked his way up there. Jesse wrote a book. He worked his way up there. Each one broke down what they were going to do, and some days just getting through that day was a struggle.
Yeah.
And you can speak directly to this because obviously you had to get through, overcome quite a lot.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I noticed is there are those stories and there are those people in the world who are very strategic and analytical, and we have the freedom in this country to be who we are and bring that to the world, which I think is super powerful. And then there are people like me who I'm very much a feeler. I go through the world with my gut feelings and I let life kind of take me in places. And Jim and Lori Word in here, who are helping adoptive and foster families, they didn't have a plan, when they started. They just did one right thing after another. And I think that's the other cool thing about this book is it's showing that you can have a goal and a plan, realistic or not. You can fall into it. You can be inspired by somebody else. But the courage and resilience comes from not shying away from the pain. We always have a choice. We can run from it, bury it, get bitter. Those are our options are there. Or we can choose to breathe, look at it. Sometimes you can only look at the pain for so long you have to back off. But did you come back? Did you try again? If you see someone hurting, did you say, man, that's someone else's problem? I'd like someone in the government to take care of it, right? Okay, but what if you instead say, that is on my heart for a reason. What little thing can I do? Where can I start? And just do that one little thing. If that's all that it does, it's still blessed that person and it blessed you. And if it turns into more, great.
Should we take like a really difficult question?
Yeah, oh gosh, have we not been doing that?
Here's a question from Jenny in Texas.
Okay.
And it's a tough question.
Okay.
My best friend lost her husband to suicide from PTSD, and I struggle with how to be effectively there for her and her kids. Wow.
Yeah.
Stuff. Mm-hmm. The kids are blaming themselves. Mm-hmm. What's the best things your closest friends did that you appreciated most? Now, your situation obviously is different, but first of all, let me emphasize and say that it's certainly not the kid's fault. PTSD, clinical depression, those are real diseases and conditions, and they have nothing to do with the kids, absolutely,
right.
and generally nothing to do with the people around them. And it's such a vicious disease because it affects not just the soldier, the veteran, or or anyone that's clinically depressed, but it also affects the loved ones around them. And the first thing that you have to know, and that they have to know, is that it's not their fault. There's nothing that they could have done, to stop that.
Right. And I think it's important that we let our kids and our loved ones know that if they were to kill themselves, do it in the time when they're healthy. You don't need to wait until they're in despair. You tell them that you'll never be okay. You'll never be the same if they were to do that ever in the future, right? And they need to know that because that's the truth. I look at Chris's gravesite and it's got mine next to it, and I realize there's a version of me that died with him. And I tell my kids this, and it's the truth, guys. Like, if you take your own life, you take mine with it. They need to know that. Like, this family is hurting, and I know that was not the intent of the father, right? He's in his own depression. He's feeling hopeless and usually worthless, right? Those are usually the two things. And what you don't realize is that you may not see your worth, but you are worth something to someone who will not be okay without you, and you do take another life with you. It's not just yours. You're not removing yourself. You're not the problem, and when you remove yourself, everything's better. That's a lie. I think that's kind of the devil talking to you. The truth is you take someone with you. How to be there for your friend who went through this process is show up and have the courage to show up.
And listen. Sometimes that's all you can do.
Yeah, or just sit there, right? I had friends who said to me one time, I'm here. I said, I don't know where I am. I don't know if I want to laugh or cry. And they said, great. If you laugh, I'll laugh with you. If you cry, I'll cry with you. I had friends who maybe might do laundry, just come over and do the dishes, but you can't ask, let me know if I can do anything for you, because somebody in that situation isn't probably going to do that, right? It's too much effort to reach out, I think, sometimes. And you just show up and you say, hey, I'd like to come over. I don't care if you're in your pajamas and unshowered for 4 days. I just want to come sit with you, is that okay? Yeah, and if they say no, you have to respect it. But
I think one of the most moving parts of American Wife, certainly, is that scene when you come back from having seen Chris
in the casket,
laid out, and all of your friends just come and just touch you gently and just listen as you tell them. And that stuff's incredibly important.
Right.
Washing the dishes, it sounds trivial, and yet those little acts. I mean, cutting your grass.
They're everything. I mean, I remember at the moment when I thought, I wonder if the laundry is done when my kids have anything to wear. It was in the first 3 or 4 days that Chris was killed, and it dawns on you that, like, people are still, changing their clothes and going to the bathroom. And I went in and I was like, this is going to be horrible. I don't even know. Everything is going to stress you out when you're in that despair time. And I opened the drawers and everything was folded and washed. And I was like, where's the laundry fairy? What? And my friends just quietly took the dirty clothes, took them home, washed them, folded them, brought them back and put them in the drawer. I didn't even know it, right? And to me, it's just show up, be there. You'll know when you're there. You'll know if it's quiet. You'll know if it's TV. You'll know if it's play with the kids, by the way. Taking my kids out to do something fun was probably one of the best blessings somebody could do for me, because I couldn't be everything for them, and I wanted them to laugh and I wanted them to smile, and I couldn't be that because I was so broken. And even if I try, they know it's not genuine. So somebody that could take them out of that environment and literally go do something fun with them and laugh with them was like, I praise them. It was the best.
Now this is actually kind of a shout out to you, so we'll embarrass you as we read
we could
it.
do like a lighthearted something else.
JT from Bloomington, Illinois says, I got to meet you on the Patriot Tour. No question, but thanks. You have taken your hardship and used that as a platform to honor Christ, your husband, and love for our country. not discounting the hardship, but should something ever happen to me, I hope my wife will see the example you have set. God bless, JT.
Thank you, JT. That's really nice. I appreciate that. I have no doubt she will. I saw this one, Jim.
Okay.
It says, my daughter Madeline has type 1 diabetes. And this is from Eric in Patriotism, Texas. What one bit of advice would you offer her to overcome the days that she wants to quit? And do you remember one of our stories in here for Exodus Road? Missionaries who end up in counter sex trafficking. Right? It's just an incredible story.
Yeah, that's one of our really wild stories.
My gosh.
You can imagine, as they describe themselves, very sheltered upbringing, and all of a sudden they're on the most notorious
red light district. They didn't mean to be, by the way.
Street. Yeah. Well, not at first.
Not at first,
and then things kind of escalate from there. And I don't want to give too much of the story away because there's a lot of action in it. But
so we asked them. We said, I mean, I know working on a foundation and things that you're passionate about and that are hard. I mean, I know writing. I'm sure days with American Wife, even probably. Do you want to quit was our question. And they said, probably once every day, because in their situation it's so disturbing and it's so hard to see what's happening in the world, that level of pain. And the point was they won't. And so when she wants to quit, I would suggest, Eric, that you let Madeline know that that's not abnormal. We all, I think, have days where we want to quit. And the point is, can you just do it anyway? And you can say, I think having the freedom to say, I feel like quitting, but I won't,
And I think in that case, there are, sometimes if you can find a community of other people that have similar, whether they've come through it already, which is always important, type 1 diabetes, whether there's, friends, maybe there's friends in school really, or some sort of support group that you can get involved with through the doctors or the hospital or clinic or somewhere. If you can find people that have gone through it, because they can really be not only an inspiration, but they may have some tips on don't do this, don't do that. But other people, I think, that are struggling as well. Yeah. So that you can say, oh, you were having that trouble too. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Man, you're right. I think sometimes, knowing that you're not alone on the journey can really help.
I'm so glad you said that, because actually that is the most true thing with every story in American Spirit. I think the healing happened by not being alone. And with American Wife and American Sniper, that's what we found too. That was Chris's new way to serve, because people came out of the woodwork to say, thank you for saying this, right? We just heard from a woman yesterday at the book club night, didn't we, that she and her husband, she said, I want to thank you because he's a Marine and we watched American Sniper so many times, and she started to tear up. And she said, because every time we watch it, it's the first time he started talking about it, about his experience in war. So the first time they watched it, he started, and every time since then, he opens up a little bit more. He's not alone. So yes, that's great advice. If Madeline has a support group somewhere of people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's tough to, and the funny thing is a lot of times it's the closer your relationship with someone, the harder sometimes it is to talk, especially like with your wife, because you don't want to disturb them, and maybe she doesn't want to disturb her parents or something. So, having that other outlet can really help.
It's a cool way to do that, by the way. I heard this years ago, and it's so true, is if you have a kid, a wife, a spouse, whatever, and there's like a deep conversation that's going to be a little too intimate, you go for a drive or a walk. And when you're driving, if you think about it, if I'm looking at you, and we're talking about something really intimate that's uncomfortable, if we're looking this way and we're just driving, we can talk a lot more freely. It's less threatening. So that's just a little side tip for anybody. That's just because when one of us is driving going like that, the other one's going, okay, I agree. I totally agree. That's cool. Exactly. Walks and stuff.
But here's a good, as a question.
That is for you, I want to know.
At what point in your life, here's a question, did you understand yourself to be an unwavering patriot? I don't think, I have trouble thinking why somebody wouldn't be a patriot. I'd be honest, and I know this sounds probably naive or dumb, I guess, but don't you, grow up thinking that way? It's not a...
I don't think everybody does.
There's not a thing. It's not a, it's not a thing. It's not like, suddenly you're 13 and you start, taking an interest in girls or boys or whatever it is. But, doesn't that, start when you're a kid, a little kid?
I think it did for you, but I don't think it does for everyone.
I guess not. I don't, because that's how I don't get, it's that thick
Yeah.
No, thick skull.
No, I love
probably,
that
I
about you,
guess.
though. I really do love that. Not that I don't think you have a thick skull. I think you've always been patriotic, and I think that a lot of people, I think, take for granted that we live here. Our news is so egocentric. We only talk about America.
Well, that's true.
So a lot of
agree with
times,
that.
like I have a friend that I went to high school with, and he was telling me that for his, shout out to Steve and Trista, he travels for work, and he said really, when he's gone, he's patriotic, right? But then when he goes to these other countries and says, these people have problems. Like like, and he keeps trying to tell his kids, like, they're grateful kids, but he makes sure to come home and say, you guys, do you know how good we have it? And I think sometimes Americans don't realize how good we have it. There are countries where you cannot speak your mind. And freedom of speech just means that, you're not going to be imprisoned by the government for speaking your mind. Freedom of religion, same thing, right? We're supposed to have freedom of religion, not from it, meaning the government can't tell us what to believe. And so I think that that's one way we could help our kids, is show them a global view of the world and what's going on out there.
I mean, realistically, I think, well, there's two things. One is, you can't be afraid of somebody having a different view, because, especially if you've grown up in a large family, where everybody's got a different view. I mean, maybe that's good training. However, having said that, I think right now there's so much division, so much anger, about different things, and we were hoping that the book is a little bit of an antidote to that, an anecdote and an antidote to both of those.
No, it is, though, because that's part of what. I have very passionate feelings too on things, and I think that it's gotten to a point where people benefit from our anger. So they benefit if they can make us angry enough to go on their side. They benefit from that. So people are constantly stoking our fires, trying to make us angry, and we have to be strong enough to say, I see that, I know the issue, I'll vote my conscience. Other than that, I don't have to spew it, I don't have to spread it, I don't have to discount a whole human being because they don't agree with me on one issue. And furthermore, if we could have the courage to look at their soul, like you'll notice you don't know their politics in this book.
Yeah, we were very careful about that. Not careful, we just never asked.
Yeah, because it didn't really matter, right? It's like and that's the American spirit.
So I'm sure that, I mean, we probably could guess, like in some instances, but it's totally irrelevant. I'm sure that
it is irrelevant in so many ways. When we talk about the early days, and it was supposed to be that the government was just postal.
There were supposed to be no. If you go back, there were no political parties,
right?
And maybe and that's what George Washington was all about, and then. But anyway.
Right, but anyway, we digress. But it's true, because it was supposed to be...
You don't need a history lesson from me.
Right. But the federal government, railways, streets, postal, and border, that's it. And currency. That's what it was designed to do. And somehow we think that now this freedom means we legislate other people to do other things. And what we're finding in American spirit is that really the true American spirit is about how we are neighbors. How we show up for each other and we respect each other's opinions, or we just go back to the old days, no religion, no politics. Right? Know somebody for who they are.
Well, listen, now, it was a struggle. I mean, one of the things, we have freedom of religion today largely because people in other countries didn't have freedom of religion. They came here, and then, but that wasn't a gimme here either. I mean, Madison, was fighting for it, and the religion that's being discriminated against, they're Baptists, which, today you wouldn't think that would be discriminated against, So, it's as
freedom of religion, not from it, right?
Exactly. So
okay, so let's do.
Well, this is a good question, and then we
I love it. Christine from Yakima.
Christine asks you, what inspires you every day? Coffee inspires me. I mean, that's entirely...
He's not inspired without it.
Exactly. So
I meant to ask you, do you hydrate at all? I see you drink coffee.
I don't have to. I just drink coffee all day.
I don't think that's true. I think you need water to balance that.
Every so often.
But what inspires me every day? Okay, so my faith is the core of what I do, and it's my kids, man. I think it's between my faith and my kids that inspires me. And part of my faith, what I mean by that is, I've had situations since Chris died, horrible situations, betrayal, deceit, lies, to the extent that blow my mind, right? And I had to really look at the Bible. Vengeance. I mean, I wanted it sometimes, but I had to come away from that. And that inspired me. I'm a better person for having not taken vengeance and having taken, a higher road. If I look at humility, which I know is a big thing for you too, that's a faith-based concept, and it guides our life. And I think we've seen how it ripples out and makes us better. So when I think of inspiration, I think of how have I tried to take my faith and incorporate it, like truly incorporate it at times where it's brutally hard to follow it. And those are the times that I think I end up most inspired to share. It's part of the inspiration for this book.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and talking to, I think we both agree that talking to each person or couple, and occasionally, there were more than two people at the same time talking, and they were each inspirational.
Oh my gosh, so
You
inspiring.
come off the, whether you're talking in phone or in person or whatever, you come out of there thinking like, yeah, and also occasionally like, why didn't I do more?
That too. And you know what? I also felt when I heard these stories, I thought, I cannot, if I don't share these stories, I'm irresponsible, because they did inspire me. They did lighten my heavy load of pain. And I just think, if I don't share these stories, like we're doing it just like we're irresponsible with what life has given us. So okay, so we should go through a rapid fire of some questions.
The one last thing though, I think that a lot of people do want to know.
Okay.
What is the most important lesson you've learned, you personally, since your tragedy?
I think the most important lesson that I've learned, and I have a lot of ones, so I'm going to try to get the one. I want to give you an honest answer, Travis in Evans, Georgia. The most important lesson I've learned is that people are much more capable than they think they are of going through hard times and truly facing the depths of their despair. I think there would have been a time where I would have said, this is impossible, or that's impossible, or there's no way. And now I know from these stories in American Spirit, if it's a physical thing that you get hit with, if it's an emotional thing, if it's a invasion on you physically. I mean, there are so many different ways, and there's nothing the human spirit cannot endure with some love around them, with some support around them.
Yeah, it's amazing, and we all have so much more strength and goodness than sometimes we get credit for or believe in even.
That we don't believe it's there, but then that's the tragedy. I don't think is God-given, but I think God gives the part after that shows you, whoa, I really was capable, and they really are, But sometimes people don't believe it even after their tragedy, and it's our job to support and show them they are.
So hopefully this book will inspire some people. And now there's like a little kind of program segment, and we'll see how you do.
Oh my gosh, I
have to ask you 22 questions in 2 minutes.
Okay,
and,
all right.
So you're not allowed to think about them. You gotta
in 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Holy cow! Do you guys know how much I talk? This is gonna be okay. I'm gonna do my
best.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me just tell you. No. Come on now, quick.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Okay.
If you fail the first one, we're doomed. It's all downhill from there. So let's start high and keep the momentum coming.
Okay.
Where were you born?
Portland, Oregon.
Well, this one is not quite so much, but who would you like to play you in a movie?
Yeah, I always thought Sandra Bullock, but now that Sienna Miller did it, she's the one. She's amazing.
You gotta go with Sienna.
She's ridiculously amazing.
And a little shout out for the possibility of another movie along the way, but
we got
we'll just like
things,
keep that as a hint
in
there.
In bubbler.
Get back.
Not the bubbler. Bubbling.
Get the stopwatch going.
We're never gonna make it in 2 minutes.
No, we're not.
Okay, let's keep going fast.
What was your first job?
Working in frozen yogurt, TCBY, the country's best yogurt.
What's your biggest fear?
I try not to live in fear anymore.
So you're afraid of living in fear?
I'm not afraid of that even.
So you're afraid of not being afraid?
I'm making a decision not to live in fear.
So you have no fear of being afraid.
No.
So therefore, that's your fear. Okay, cool. Who makes you laugh the most?
Oh my gosh, my kids make me laugh. My friend Mel Birdwell makes me laugh. Like everybody, truly, people don't know this about me because they see me cry a lot. I laugh with just about anybody I meet. I love to laugh.
It's only on TV that
people make me cry.
Yeah, absolutely. What is the one thing you need to have in your fridge at all times?
Cheese.
What's your greatest accomplishment?
Surviving with my faith intact.
I want to hear the answer to this. Who is the most interesting person you met recently? Not the limo driver. I know.
I almost did a shout out, but I won't. I'm not going to say his name. I mean, I've met so many interesting people. That's why I'm stumped. Is like the most interesting person.
That's what the question is.
Okay. I'm gonna say it. The most fascinating times are people where like there was a driver I forget what state it was in, but he just, I'm in these situations, I just talk to them and they open up their hearts to me, even in the car, and I'm just like,
all right, we're gonna go to
fascinated
an easier question.
Can't
She doesn't
pick.
want to get in trouble.
Everybody's
that's
interesting
what
to
it
me.
is.
No, really, I'm fascinated by people.
What's your middle name?
Really? Okay, next question.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
Rude people.
What's the last book you read?
American Spirit.
Literally, because Taya did the what people don't probably know. She did. There's an audio version of the book, and Taya actually did it,
Yeah.
which is wild. I of course wanted to do it, but they said no. I have to say, you don't
I
know
got 2
this.
minutes here. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I failed like the only audition to read.
Did you audition for it?
Well, not this book, but a
Buzz
different
Like
book.
Lightning?
No, they just said no. You're out.
That's
You're gone."
horrible. I love your
know.
accent and your voice. But by the way, I buy books all the time with the intention to read. I just don't get to them.
There's a lot of books in her house.
Yeah.
What's your favorite hobby?
Traveling.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Stupid shows that just make me laugh that I can't even admit I watch.
That and bad puns, by the way.
Oh, I love bad puns. Yeah.
Do you have any hidden talents?
No, if
But
I
they
have
were-
a talent, I
they
die
were-
to show it to the world.
What color is your toothbrush?
White and green.
What's your secret snack? But if you say it, it's not really a
Quest
secret
bars. I
anymore.
eat them like I
But
hide
they're
them in
not-
my backpack all the
Yeah, I know.
time.
That's not a secret now, because like everybody can see
It wasn't before I said it. Now.
How do you take your coffee?
Black with heavy cream, sometimes a stevia when I'm really feeling wild.
What's the last movie you saw in theaters?
Star is Born.
Okay. Oh, which starred?
Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga.
There we go. Just a quick shout out to Bradley. What is the last gift you gave?
My daughter, clothes, the sports clothes, golf clothes.
What cause is dear to your heart?
The American Spirit, Chris Kyle Rock, there's so many.
And Chris Kyle Frog
Foundation for sure.
Yeah. There's a question. What is number one on your bucket list? But is it number, here's what I don't understand. Number one being like the most difficult to achieve, or the next one that you're going to get?
I might only have
Tricky.
one.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then the same.
Yeah, I want to see every country on the globe.
God bless you.
I know. I might be 95.
You're insane. Yeah. Where do you want to go that you've never been?
So many places. Scotland, Iceland. I have so many places I've never been, but I want to.
Okay, so we did the 22 questions, and probably was more than 2 minutes.
Probably so. I feel like they should be asking you.
Yeah, I think we're supposed to give a shout out for where people can get the signed edition.
Okay,
that we're
all right.
that they are now going to put us to work doing.
Yeah, premiercollectibles.com/American Spirit. That's Premier, PREMIERE, collectibles.com/American Spirit.
She's a better speller than I am.
I had to look at it.
Well, it's been fun, and there's a lot more questions, really.
Yeah, that we could
people
do.
have.
So we'll have to do
People are
another
absolutely.
Facebook Live another time. Are we out
Sure.
of time? I think we are.
I think we are.
Yeah, it's time. They're done with us.
They're done. Yeah, they switched off before they went to
We
eat
probably
dinner
don't have
or
anybody
whatever.
left watching
Probably
anyways. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.